This episode is for a business owner trying to scale a business that feels like it's running you instead of the other way around. If you're adding more tools, more people, more hours, but still hitting the wall, this conversation is going to hit home for you. Welcome back to the Champion Mindset Collective. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because it gets right to the heart of something that I've seen so many times, both in my own journey and working with others. Today, I'm joined by Chad Paris. Chad specializes in process-first business growth, helping entrepreneurs, leaders, and teams stop scaling broken systems and start building clear, repeatable, and sustainable processes. He helps businesses look beneath the surface before adding more people, more tools, AI, or software. His core message is simple. Growth does not fix broken processes. It only exposes them rather than pushing hustle, pressure, or more complexity. Chad teaches founders and operators how to create clarity around how work actually gets done. His work is especially relevant for companies wanting to scale or introduce AI, but who first need to fix the foundations. Chad, it's great to have you on the Champion Mindset Collective. Welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Great to be here. Very, very grateful that you had me on the show. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Look, I kind of think like we're brothers from another mother. What you're talking about is exactly what I do here in New Zealand. And so to find someone that's, got the similar mindset and thinking around this, it's a breath of fresh air. So it's great to have you here.
Agree.
I'd love for you to share your journey in life from childhood to now. How did you get here?
Thanks for asking that question. I grew up in a really small rural town in North Alabama, actually, United States. Grew up with a single parent, watched my mother work 2 and 3 jobs. We didn't have a lot, didn't come from a lot. But I think on that early age, I recognized what hard work looked like and determination. Sometimes even when you don't want to do that, you have to do that. And so I think it's what kind of baked inside me, that drive to constantly be pressing forward and growing. And really, I credit that moment probably in my life that's given me the willpower to accomplish the things that I've accomplished with multiple degrees, and was an educator for 10 years, taught school. I wasn't just satisfied with that. I went all the way up to a school administrator, left that after 10 years and got into sales. Wasn't going to be okay with just being another average salesperson. Grew a bottom 5 territory into the top 5, moved on and just ranked up all the way up to eventually, spent the last several years as a senior vice president, executive level, working with boards and in companies and helping them grow. And I look back on that and I think that early age, that determination and watching my mom's grit and drive that she had to do that is instilled in me, is what makes me have that go and not always satisfied, but looking at a way to always improve. I think that's the most important message there, is I don't always get it right, but I'm willing to examine where I am and change that process need to be changed in order to be successful.
Yeah, it's so important to be aware of what's going on and then be the change in yourself so you can be the change in the world as well. And it sounds like what you're doing through your work now is helping people do the same change.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy most about what I do today, is that I get to constantly look inside other people's business. When you sit across from a founder or an entrepreneur or leader or a CEO or a board member, and you can see the passion that they have about the company, and they do, and they care a lot about it. There's a lot of them out there, and they're maybe at a place where they're stuck, or they're maybe at a place where they really want to grow, but they just haven't grown over these several years. There's some frustration there. And being able to see them as a real person, not the owner or not the CEO, and just have real conversations and help walk them through. Very often they don't know the answers. And I think that's what scares them. They know that something's not working, but they don't know what the answers are. And so that's where I have had the opportunity to do what I've done in my career and be on that side of it, is that I know the leading questions to ask to start uncovering those things. And it gives me a lot of reward to see that aha moment with some very powerful people that own $1 million companies. They're human too, and they're trying to grow their business and they have aha moments. They're brilliant people. I always say, watch your six. When they have people that are helping them watch their six to see where they may have made a mistake and being able to change course, implement new things, it's amazing to see the growth that happens from that point. And I take a lot of pride in that. I think that's what I enjoy most about what I do now.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great. And one thing I've learned is clarity first is so important, because there's a lot of business owners out there that don't have the clarity and they're overwhelmed and they're not sure what to do. And as consultants, we can come in and help them see where the bottlenecks are, see where there's opportunities for them to be able to move forward in their business.
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur myself, as well as you are, I have a business that I run. And when you're in the day, when you're in that work and you're going really fast and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made and things, because you grow, you start having different people that you've hired and being in different spots or different titles. It's not the small company anymore. It's hard to manage that because you may be over here working in this area that you're really good at, but all these other areas, maybe they're not getting the same attention they once got. And that process, that maybe we didn't have that process because we wasn't big enough to have that process at that time, which is fine. But that process adds on top of that process, on top of that one. And before you know it, you've got several gaps in there that you have to go back and reevaluate. And there comes a point in real time where you have to make a decision. Do we slow down where we are to go back and fix the process, or we just keep going forward? And that's a very hard decision to make. And I think that's what us as consultants can do, is not slowing it down, but being somebody that's not in the day-to-day with you every day to look at it and know the right places to go look and the questions to ask. You know, when I speak to companies, I interview a lot of different people, because in order to know where the different spots are, you can't just have a conversation with one person. You got to do your due diligence, and it's time. And I always love getting that opportunity to go back to that client and giving them the rundown of what has been found. And I always tell them in the beginning, look, this is not a report card of what you did bad. Here are areas that we've uncovered that after talking with them and going through that, it's usually they're going, yep, I see that. And I think that's giving clarity. You speak of that, clarity to them to see that this is good. I think it's healthy for every company to have somebody that they can have come in and help them. Not every consultant will do that, but you got to find somebody that it's not just about making that dollar. It's more about helping your business scale and grow, and gets that and understands that before you just go hire anyone.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You can't just talk to one person, because when you first started the business, maybe you knew most of the things that were happening. But as the company gets bigger, more people are actually owning those pieces of work. And people that are closest to those processes are going to be the ones that know how efficient it is, where the bottlenecks are, where there's issues. So when you, as a business owner or a CEO or whatever leadership role you're in, you may not know the full story.
Yeah, we're human beings that pride ourselves on doing things the right way. And nobody ever signs up to have somebody to come tell them what they're doing wrong. So that's not a natural thing. And so when you're a leader and you may have an MBA from somewhere, you're brilliant, you've been very successful. It's tough and it's humbling to go, okay, we got a problem. And that's hard to do. And I get that. I think that's a legitimate concern. And it's especially hard for someone that may be a director. Let's say they're over the finance department and they're the CEO or the CFO or the finance director under that. For them to go, hey, this is a broken process, because they're the ones at the top. They're the ones that's supposed to have it all together. And so to admit that is saying, essentially, I didn't do a good job. But I don't look at it that way. I think you got to change that way you think about that, and saying that, hey, look, we are human beings. We're going to miss things. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to give attention to areas that we like better than attention's over here. That's normal. And so being willing to say, hey, you know what? We need someone to help look at this from an unbiased perspective. And I think it goes to how you articulate to those CEOs too, because it's not about what you did wrong. It's about the misgap or the misalignment that you had as you were growing. And once you uncover those, I think what happens is they start looking at it in a perspective of going, oh, this is really good. Like, I need to kind of implement this cycle of evaluation every 2 months, 3 months. I'm a firm believer in once I leave is putting them on an evaluation and teaching them how to do that for themselves so that they know, hey, how do we evaluate this in 3 months if we're on par?
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, your story is really compelling. You left your secure executive career to bet on yourself with the family relying on you. What was going on for you in that moment that made you take such a big leap, and how did that decision really force you to confront the idea of building things properly?
Yeah, I don't think it was the fear of the business failing. I think it was the fact of me walking away from the security of the paycheck, right? The security of knowing that I was being paid, every 2 weeks and having to get uncomfortable with walking away from that to say, okay, there is no more paycheck. It's what I do from this forward is the paycheck. And luckily in my life, I didn't go out and borrow a business loan. There's a lot of people who has to do that. I was fortunate enough to have some that I had saved because I knew for a really long time that I wanted to start my own business. I knew that. I was afraid. I was afraid to do it. I was afraid to walk away from that everyday paycheck to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go all in. And I got to a point where I just felt this calling that I need to do it. And when I walked away, and I will never forget my wife, the first week, she looked at me and go, I don't know if I've ever seen you any happier. Your demeanor's changed. The way you communicate's changed. And I think that's so true is that I think I'm finally doing what I was built to do. And I'm doing it for myself. And I'm building a legacy that's mine that I can build it the way I want to. And all the things that I preach, I do here. I have someone that I have that process watches me. I don't just tell it, I actually live it. And I've enjoyed being able to live what I preach and have that ability to do that. And in corporate America, sometimes you don't get the chance to do that. I'll be honest, it was scary. It's scared to death. I tell somebody all the time, it's the happiest I've ever been and the scariest at the same time. It's a range of emotions, but I absolutely would do it again and again and again. It's the best thing I've ever did. For me and my.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. For me, both times have been, I wouldn't say forced, but guided, I would say, by the universe. And so both times were redundancies where I went, okay, well, this is not working. Let me start something. And so I went into the coaching side of things, then started the podcast, and then went back into a job. And then only 3 to 4 months later, get made redundant again. And I was like, okay, this is the last straw. I can't keep doing this. And that's when I have been doing this for coming up to, actually, it's been just over a year that I've been in my business, but the podcast has been around for 2.5, almost 3 years.
That's great.
Yeah. So I totally appreciate where you're coming from. And absolutely, when you're not working for someone else and you're building your own future, it's exciting. It's definitely scary, but you've got to feel that fear and do it anyway, right?
Yeah. I think, Anthony, you say something that's so true there is that still on some Sundays, I sit and think, okay, I got to go to tomorrow's Monday because we grow 30 years. You're getting up Monday through Fridays, you're going to work. It's a little weird because now it's like, if I don't want to, I don't have to work. But I work more now. I work harder now and happier than I did when I was working for corporate America. And that's what's amazing. It's like, I don't even realize that I'm working. Like, I don't realize it. It's hard to explain. It's just,
You're in a flow state.
Yeah.
Flowing. You're just, enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just flowing. So you get to a point where you're just like, wow, hours have gone past and I don't feel exhausted. I don't feel drained. I'm energized by this.
Yeah. I work sometimes it's, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting here going, work from home, obviously, but I'm like,
Yeah. So
where did the time go by? It's like, I have to make myself leave doing the work.
Yeah.
Versus where I used to be like, hey, clock can't go fast enough, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different feeling.
Yeah. I've been in a flow state for the last, I don't know, 5-6 months and working till 1:30 in the morning and then going, okay, now I've got to peel myself off this chair and actually go and jump in my bed. So yeah, and I totally appreciate that. What was the biggest fear that you've had to overcome in that decision?
Yeah, I got a family, right? And I have responsibility and I have a wife and I have a son and we've been able to have nice things and do and go. And I think for me, it was a fear of being able to continue to allow my family to live the lifestyle that they've always lived and still be able to do what I'm doing. The fear is coming that I love what I do so much that I don't want it to end, but I also don't want my family to suffer. And so there's this mixed feeling that happens kind of simultaneously. And I think, for me, it's putting in the effort to work to see it grow, but the fear of disappointing and not being able to provide for them. And nobody wants to start a business that they have to, if it fails, you have to look at someone and say, well, it didn't work out. No, nobody wants to do that, right? It happens a lot to people. But I said it very early on. One thing that I was going to do is I was going to give everything I have. If it failed, it failed. I can't control that, but it's not going to be because I did give it everything I had and do everything to try to make it work. So having said that, that fear does subside, but it's still fear. And I think all entrepreneurs probably feel a little bit of that.
Yeah, and failure is only feedback. It's giving you feedback as to where things may not be working. A few years ago, a manager of mine said to me, Anthony, do you know what mistakes are? I said, those are bad things. I said, when you do something wrong. He said, no, it's not. He said, when you make a movie? I said, yeah. He says, well, you have a lot of mistakes, and then eventually you get the right take and you make a multi-million-dollar movie. So life, business is the same. If you haven't done something before, especially starting a new business, absolutely you're going to go through some challenges and some speed bumps, and it could be a bit of a roller coaster. And they say also entrepreneurship is a large portion of it. You're in the wilderness, right? But in that wilderness is where you're actually growing and you're expanding and you're becoming the new version of yourself. You're no longer that employee. And I remember going to a Tony Robbins event back in 2025, and he said one thing. He said, identity is everything. It shapes who you are. And that hit me, and I was like, my goodness, all these years I've been through 24 restructures and 4 redundancies. And the most common thing is that my identity is that I am an employee. And right. I realized at that moment that I had to shift that identity from an employee to an entrepreneur, a business owner.
Yeah.
The minute I did that, everything changed.
That's good. Yeah. I think I struggled a little. I think I probably still struggle a little with that now, is because, again, when you've been an employee your whole life, you work for somebody else, you find yourself, like that's what
you're programmed, you're conditioned. Yeah.
And then you kind of have that moment where you're like, this is mine. I do what I want to. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
You give yourself permission, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Absolutely. Cool. And so you often say that growth does not fix broken processes, it just exposes them, which I totally agree with, because whatever sits beneath is just going to get amplified, especially with AI now. Can you give us a real world example, maybe from your corporate career, where you saw a company invest heavily in new tech or a new team, but then just fell apart because the underlying process was not there?
Yeah, I think this is an area that I'm pretty passionate about. I've seen it happen in a couple of companies, actually, where one time was around a new CRM coming into the company, and another time was with some hiring some people or hiring a new area or some different levels coming in. And so both of them were situations where, and they very often do come around growth, right? Things start growing. And, we think you're a $0 to $5 million company, you may not have a robust CRM. You may have something, you may have a spreadsheet, you may have something that, there's a lot of them out there now. But as you grow, the first thing that most people think of is, okay, we got to get a more robust CRM. We got to have a way to, track our customers, to engage with our customers, to have our, social media and all those things. And it very often happens, right? And so this particular situation, we got a really nice CRM. There's a lot of them out there that are really, really good. And we brought that in, and I've had multiple experiences bringing CRMs in. And so, like anything, when you launch it, you start developing like, okay, how is this going to function in our sales team? How's this going to function in our marketing team? What is the executive team going to be able to have access to be able to see? And very often what happens is these channels start evolving. They start growing. And so you may have the operations team where they got, this is what we really need. You got the sales team, this is what we really need. This is what the marketing was they really need. Executive team, this is what we really need. And you just start building, and they start layering and layering. But there's no overall some very commonly happens where the synergy, where the process of everything flows together. And so you get a lot of things that are built on this spot, this spot, this spot, this spot, but they're not working in the entire group. And so you very often get to a point, I've seen it happen many, many times. Everybody's frustrated because, well, we spend $100,000 or $200,000 on our CRM, and we can't even tell you if we got 14 orders coming out tomorrow. This is real world things. And it always comes back to that there was an intention, and the intent was to have it all communicated and be organized. But what we've done is because the process wasn't fixed or wasn't buttoned up or how things were going to be mapping and flowing, now we've created more chaos. So there's more pressure, there's more chaos. You have money that's going out, but you can't tell what's coming in. You're not being able to see real numbers from your sales team, what activity they're doing for that day. So I don't know if it's growing. I don't know if we're seeing the right people. I don't even know how to coach them. These are all things that I've heard, and I'm sure you have too.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the ROI on this marketing ad. We don't know because it's all broken because nothing's working in together. And so it's very common that it comes back to a process gap. And so I'm a firm believer that if you don't sit down and spend time before you start bringing a CRM in and really understand how we do things, all the way from the intake of someone picking the phone up and calling your office until it gets to the last person who touches, which would be the person putting it on the truck to ship it out. Use that as an example. If you don't have that whole process down and know exactly where every avenue goes, you're just creating chaos and you're creating a structure problem that you're going to deal with. And it's going to be exposed faster with all these agents in there. It's going to expose it faster and the pressure is going to amplify. And everybody's going to be screaming at each other. It happens.
Yeah, 100%. You got to know what the pain points are. You got to know what your existing process, how it works, and how it interacts, not just for your team, but right across the organization. And then where are the opportunities to maybe make those processes efficient? Because sometimes processes are made up of workarounds or band-aids, or even do we need to change the process so that it's in harmony and symphony, right, with everyone else? It's like having a symphony orchestra or something like that where, you've got certain instruments not playing in time. Then you go to market and go, okay, well, what are the best tools out there? And there's many CRMs, but what I've seen is that number of businesses will only use 10% of the capability of a platform. It's because it doesn't fit into their process. But when your process is well defined right across your organization, you have clarity, then you can go out, or you could build something that's going to work for you as an organization and give everyone the information that they need.
Yeah. Well, here's an example. Lead generation is a big thing people want, right? Especially in B2B, they want a lead generation. They want that. And so I have one that I sell or talk to clients about. And it's different than most. You can go out tomorrow and have any company, they're advertising all over the internet. You see them, you don't have to go far to find them, where they're promoting these. We're going to give you 1,000 leads tomorrow, right? Great. That's awesome. I'm not saying they can't do that. But it does no good to get all those if your process is broken, because you're just going to get a bunch of stuff that's going to be cloudy. Like you don't know what to do with it. And what I mean by that is, okay, this is an example, Anthony. If you gave me a lead generation and I was working that lead and I was an inside sales, let's just say I'm inside sales, and that lead comes to me and then I have what someone told me to do. This is how we're going to sell. And they get on the phone and they sell a certain way. Well, the lead died. It didn't go anywhere. It ghosted. It died, right? Well, then we work the next one and we work the next one and we work the next one. Well, very often we've worked, I don't know, let's say we've worked 20, 25 leads, but we've had no sales. And so then what the people at the top go? Well, something's wrong with the leads. Okay, so then we go and get another lead generator. Keep doing that. Well, what the problem is that it's probably not the lead. It is probably the way that we're selling or the process in which way we were selling. That's where I'm a firm believer in creating, and you do this probably too, is like, you got to have instant coaching. So can hear and say, oh, mistake, fix. That's a great process tool to help where I see it fitting and helping so that they're getting instant reward or learning on the go. too many companies just don't do stuff that way. And they think that, oh, I saw this great tool, on Facebook or whatever. Let's add it to here. And it ended up it's so cloudy because they're paying for something that's getting to them that really doesn't function and work. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Like, there's so many tools coming out, and I have people coming to me, like business owners, who'll say, "What tool should I use?" And that's the first question in the conversation. And I'm like, "Well, I don't know your business." I said, well, "It's not a conversation I'm going to have." I said, "What I need to understand is your vision, your mission, your strategy, where you're going, and how do we help you get there? Right? What are the challenges that you're going through? Like, where are you as a business owner being a bottleneck? Where are processes broken that could be made more efficient?"
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I had a medium-sized business CEO come to me and said, "We've got 1,600 processes in our business. We've documented them." I said, "That's amazing. Well done." I said, "But how efficient are they?" And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you do realize that over time processes are built with workarounds and Band-Aids, and Band-Aids will fall off, and workarounds are not efficient. So you've got to pull those processes apart and put them back together so that they're working like a well-oiled machine." And he went, "I never thought of that." I said, "Well, you've got a lot of work to do then, you know."
Yeah.
Because once you've got those processes working efficiently and you put AI over the top of it, it's just going to work really well. But broken processes, as I said before, what lies beneath the surface is just going to get amplified.
Yeah, and I like what you said there because I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree. I've had a potential client call, and he's like, "Oh, we've got the sales process, we got that down." But he was calling to ask me for more leads. How do I help him with AI leads? And I thought to myself, I says, "Well, if you have the sales process down, why do you need more leads?" And he's like, "Well, we just need more coming in." I was like, so this is where you get caught, right? So if you got a sales process, if you're dialed in and that process is working, 10 leads, you ought to close 50%, right? If it's dialed in. You ask anybody in the world, if you close 50% of the leads that come in, they would take it tomorrow. They would take it. Be like, sign me up. Well, the reason that they may not is because, like you said, they've got a Band-Aid or they got a workaround or, well, we used to do it this way, but because it got us so slow, we changed a couple things. Like this is what happens. And you go back and you go, well, why did you stop that? Well, it was taking too much time and our calls were running a little bit long. We couldn't get to enough of them, so we changed. Could be more fast. So you wanted to be more efficient, so you took processes out.
Mm.
Well, yeah, we needed to be quicker. Okay. Well, what's your close rate go to? Well, look at it. We fell off 32%. Well, this happens every single day until you get in there and you start examining, like you just said, and you're like, yeah, we did have a bunch of process, but we're not following those anymore.
Yeah. I've interviewed a few people recently and who are in the sales game, and one of the guys was Nathan Mark, who's written a book called The Mark Method. And he says often it's not that the fact that you need more leads. You don't need more leads because often the people you've already got, the relationships that you've already got, you can nurture those and upsell and so on. You already got the warm relationship there. So you don't always need more new leads. It's about what can you do with the existing customers that you've got. And they've already got the trust in you. They already like you, they respect you, and they've bought from you. So, but yeah, it's always good to have new clients as well. But absolutely, I agree with you there. What is the first sign that things are going sideways when you're talking to customers, clients?
Usually the first sign is the frustration. When you start, there's two ways. If the CEO, the owner is frustrated, it's going to wait. It's bad, right? I mean, it's made it that far, it's bad. But the first signs that I usually see is what I call the underbelly, the people that are at the desk doing it every day. So if it's the operation, it's the person in the operation that's maybe in the office, that's working on the day-to-day, doing the bookkeeping, or I don't call it bookkeeping, but they're in the day-to-day. Like they may be, in a manufacturing plant, they may be on a particular station. If there's frustration there, that's usually the first sign. That's kind of catching it at that pain point, which I always tell owners, like, this is a good thing. Like we've caught it at the pain point. Like this is where it's going to come to a head. And so that's a good thing. That's not bad. When it gets all the way up to the executive level, like the director of the, SVP of operations, then typically it's gotten really, really bad. I see a lot of it around customer care. That's an area where I think everybody wants to great customer service, but very often is spent the most amount of time in to develop. So that's a big area that you see. But yeah, I think that frustration, and I think it's usually very easy to spot if you're talking to the people. Like I said, I do a full analysis when I tell people, so look, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to have access to everybody's list of questions. And I have certain questions that I ask for whatever role they may be. And I tell them, look, I'm going to share all this with you. Nothing's keeping here. This is all your information. But I usually can uncover pretty quickly within, I would say, the first day or so where the frustration is.
Mm.
And you probably know this too in your experience doing that. When you've done this, you have the eye for it, so you kind of can tell where the frustration is, and then you start diving in, and you may find it 6 or 7 layers deeper. Typically, wherever that frustration, I call it the treatment spot, is probably filtered to different areas. And it's where marketing is frustrated with operations because they can't get the data bulletin points for this product that they're trying to get out, so they can't do it. People don't realize how entwined a business is. Every piece has to be working. And it's just like a body. If you don't work your arm out and it gets sore, you got to treat it. You got to take care of it. You got to keep it working, all of it together. And if you don't, then you usually have an area where it'll fall off. And that's kind of where you see it start having this blistering effect that happens.
Yeah. See, in my journey, I worked in local government as well as a telco, but majority of the time in my role, I was finding issues and then being able to help. But when I started working in the local government, I was the conduit between the business and the technical teams, so the data analytics teams. So often I was able to see what was happening in the business and then see what was happening from a technical perspective in data and so on. And initially, I remember when I first joined that organization, the technology team worked separately from the data analytics team, and the technology team would tell the business what they wanted instead of listening to the business and understanding where the challenges were. So they would say, you need this application or this platform. And when I came along, the business would say to me, your technology team don't listen to us. They don't ask us the right questions. And so they don't really understand what we want. And then they go and put something else in front of us and say, this is what you want. So then what I started doing is, because I was working along with a lot of project managers and program managers. So when we would go to a quarterly meeting with the executives and the general managers, I would ask a question from the data analytics perspective. The technology team would talk about the technology side. And then I would say, so what reporting would you need from that platform? And then all of a sudden that would come through. Then I would say to the project manager or the program manager, make sure that's on your budget. Because before I came along, there was no money for data analytics or reporting because everything was just technology, right?
Yeah.
So I started to change it from within, and all of a sudden things started to get better because I could see the whole process end to end, whereas they were just looking at their own little space. And this is all they need is a platform, a technology piece. No, but there's data that needs to come in. We need to understand what metrics we want, all of that information. That's how I would challenge not only the business, but also the technology teams as well. And it was a great experience over 3.5 years of doing that until I had to leave. But that's what it is. Aside from the money spent, what is actually the real cost when processes are not aligned and they're not working efficiently?
I got a company right now that I'm working with. When things are chaotic, people start either hiring people or buying things to fix it, right? We need to hire, an executive, or we need to hire this person. So they hire, they spend it, they budget them. Okay, well, $200,000, whatever. And then you got, we need a tool to do that, a CRM, ERP system, whatever, an AI tool, whatever. I would say that right now, I've got a couple companies probably in a couple $100,000 that we've already been able to identify that we could peel back just by my little bit of time with them. I think it'll go $500,000 or more by the time I'm done. Just an overspend to try to gap fix things that don't really need money thrown at it. Just needs to be written adopted, and that's how we're going to do it. It's got to become part of the DNA of the culture of the process. And I hear it all the time. So if I had I take my notepad or my recorder in there, my plot, and I listen, the number of people saying, I get this all the time. Hey, what's your thoughts on these 4 programs? What's your thoughts on these? And I'm constantly looking at it going, and I give them a full write up about it. And I always put in there after I give them the write up, is this really what you need at this time? And I ask the question. And very often I'll get a call. What do you mean? And I'm like, I don't think this is something that you need. I think it's a great tool. I think it's a fabulous tool, but don't buy it now. Let's get this playbook built. Let's get this process built. Then let's buy it. Because in that way, yes, it does a great thing. But it's only as good as what you put into it. So if you put all the broken into it, it's going to teach broken. It's not going to fix it. So hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I bet you're the same way. You see it like that people spend. That's just a lot of money, and that's a real capital expense that you have to pay for. You look at your EBITDA growth and things like that when you're trying to grow, and that's a real expense that I don't know how many companies I've had that they're like, man, we're finally growing. We've got an executive over this. We got an executive over this. We got they're $1 million plus in cost. And do they really need that at that time? I'm not saying they didn't need it, but what are they doing? Well, they're running the marketing team. Well, okay, what's the message? Well, what do you mean, what's the message? We want to sell this, okay, or we want to do this. Well, just go back to who you say you are. Your mind will be blown at the millions and millions of dollars that's spent.
Yeah, totally agree with you there, Chad. So for a business owner who's listening right now and is feeling that familiar pressure to scale, but suspecting deep down that things are messy, where should they even begin to look for these broken processes?
I think about 3 things. 3 things that I would ask if there was someone listening today. First of all, I would ask, is it written down? Do you have, let's say that we're examining X. Is there a written down where this process is in place? That's the first thing I'm going to ask. That's number 1. Number 2, would it survive day 1 with a brand new hire? So if you have it in place, if you hired somebody new tomorrow, would they be able to understand what they do or they're supposed to do? That'd be the second thing I'd ask. Because if you hired somebody, what is the length of time it's going to take you to train them? If you say it's 6 months, then we got a process problem. Okay? Very often happens where we hire people, it causes problems. And then the last question that I'd ask him, if we 10X this tomorrow, we grew 10X starting tomorrow, would you be able to fulfill and stay at the same level that you are right now? And if no is on any one of those 3, then you have a process problem. That's the 3 that I very often ask the questions and usually can tell you that that's a realistic question I think people could ask themselves.
Yeah, I want to give you my framework and I want to complement yours with what I've got. So I call mine the Champion OS, and it's a 5-step process. So the base, this is for compounding growth, right? So to get the alignment. So the base is identity clarity, so which stands for, can your leadership clearly articulate your organization's identity and values? If you say yes, the next step is the discipline layer, which is, do you have a consistent framework for evaluating priorities and trade-offs? If that's a yes, then strategic alignment. Can your team articulate your current projects and connect them to your 3-year vision? And if that's a yes, then the process structure. Do your core workflows have documented repeatable structures, which is what you just mentioned there? Then if that's a yes, then the last one is around the AI integration, which is, are your AI initiatives aligned to your strategic priorities or are they just isolated experiments?
Yeah. That's
and
good.
If you could step your way through to the top, then what you explained, and then you add this on top of that, and you're ready for the tool.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't go and buy a tool until you can say that we are clear with our values and identity, and we've got structure, and we know how to make this decisions and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and I know you and I align a lot on this with AI and AI tools. AI is so powerful, and it is changing. And I'll say this: I don't care what company you are going to have AI in your company. There is not a company today. I don't even care if you do lawn maintenance. You're going to have AI in your company. It's here, and it's going to get better and better and better. And I tell people all the time, and one of the biggest things I tell them is the greatest place, processes are working on, is the greatest place to start AI. I don't know how many times I've asked this question to people, and I get the craziest look, and they don't know, and I make them do homework. And I say, in 1 week, where do you spend, talking about you individual, they may be whatever they do in the company. What do you spend most of your time in that week doing? You know how many times I have people look at me and go, I don't know the answer to that. I got to think about that. How I find that, like, so you just finished 5 days this week, and you don't know where you spent most of your time. To me, that ought to tell you that there's a process broken. Because if you don't know where you spent your time this past week, what AI is so good at is figuring out if, for example, if 40 hours is in a week and 28 of them or 30 of them is in emails, I can help you with a stack, and you can too, that can help you with that, right? There's a tool for that. But it's just blows my mind at the amount of just, that's how you have to think about AI. It's a tool, right? It's a tool to give you back time, what you're good at. That's what you need to be doing with it.
Yeah, it's a tool that's going to help you reduce the amount of repetitive tasks that you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Providing that you've got really good processes, and also you're going to be able to reclaim that time back and do more meaningful things. But yeah, absolutely. As you said before, write down, do time management and go, where am I spending time each day? And then at the end of the week, and I was talking to a lady recently on the podcast and she talks about processes and workflows. And she said, you could just go to your favorite ChatGPT or Claude. Every task or every day you just say, this is what I spent today. And at the end of the week, you say, now write me a summary of what a report on where I've been spending the most amount of time and where I could automate some things. AI is going to help you get those insights, right? Those insights are going to then help you actually move forward and start to go, okay, hang on. So I'm spending, 50% of my time doing this and then you ask yourself as a business owner, okay, say you earn $500 an hour, hypothetically, and you're doing a $30 task. Is that worth your time?
Absolutely. And if it's someone in your company that, let's say they got a salary of $250,000 and they spend 30 of their 40 hours on emails. Is that the best use of a $250,000 salary? No, it happens every day. Every day. There's hundreds of businesses out there right now that could answer that and go, man, yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon.
Do you know, back in 2019, I did a 2-month stint at contract work at a Lotto New Zealand. And I went in there, and whenever a claim came through, so the tickets have been damaged or lost or whatever, the forms would come through and they'd stack up every day. And there was a cardboard box where the lady would put these forms into. And then 2 weeks later, the customer would call up in the call center and say, I haven't heard anything back about my claim. And so the person would get off the seat, walk over to this box. I'm like, what is, because I was brought in to do data entry. And I said to the operations manager, he's 60 something years old. And I said, dude, this guy's getting up, coming here. The lady's putting that into a box. I said, they have no visibility of what's going on, where the form's at. I said, why don't we scan these and we can put them into a drive in the folder, and then also we enter them into the CRM. And then that way, when the customer calls, they can see it. They've got the scanned copy, and you can then ask someone digitally to action that.
Yeah.
And I said, look, my time is better spent solving your problem than actually doing the data entry. So if you give me the next 2 to 3 weeks to solve this problem, then you will never have to hire anyone else again. Because that's just what they were doing, is every 2 months, they were hiring someone to do data entry. And so I spoke with the customer service team manager, spoke with the operations manager, the finance team, and I made this operations team go paperless. And then I walked over to the finance team and I said, you need to go paperless next. And they looked at me and said, what? So anyway, I implemented this process, did a whole flow chart and everything so they understood exactly how it's going to work. And every day the forms would come in, the lady would scan them, and then that was it. It was done. A few minutes later, after I left, I bumped into one of the ladies from the finance team and I said, how's it all going? And she said, well, the lady that was doing all the claim forms, she said she's left the business and her team have absorbed the work and finance has gone paperless.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, these are government departments or like huge entities. And I'm like, I just couldn't believe it that I've walked into this archaic way of working when in the 21st century or whatever we're in.
Then there's businesses right now and is doing it right now.
Yeah.
Same thing. Wow. Yeah.
What about the process that's in someone's head and it's not been documented? What's the simplest way to identify that process and help them get it on paper or even on digitally,
Yeah, I think what happens a lot of time is you get into that, like, this is how we've always done it mentality. Like, you get that, like, this is, well, this is how we've done it. I think something that you said actually is spot on is the workflow chart, how we're going to do it. I'm a very big advocate on that first. Like, I think that's and this goes back to me being a teacher. Like, when people learn, they don't learn, like some people learn by reading, some people actually learn by visual aid. Well, there's a lot of different learning types, right? And so I like to hit on those learning types when you're showing someone new that. And so I think the flow chart, because you have words and you have the way it flows, you have all those things, is a really good tool to use for people. Because some people like to read it. Some people are like, oh, I just want to see how it does, move this, move that. And so I think that's a really, really good one to kind of show them how this is going to flow through. Process is like repetition, right? You got to accept it. And I tell people, look, if you're not ready to accept change and a process fix, I'm just going to waste your time. Keep willing to say, okay, we're going to give this a shot. We hear you. We're here. It's got to get better because it's going to take some repetition to do it because you're changing, right? You're changing just like this discussion that you just said. This is the way we've always done it. And it's a scan and you do this. Now you're disrupting their workflow. And so it's something that they've been doing. Maybe they've been doing it for 10 years. And so that new change, everybody's going to complain about it. Oh my God, this is making more time doing this. It's supposed to help us, but it takes more time. You've heard all that, right? In reality, you could time it all you want. I've done it before. It's actually not taking more time. It's actually taking less time. But after they do it, usually 30 days, that's about the time the new habit creates. They're like, how did we ever do it the old way? But that's my answer to that. I think it's combination of a couple different ways to show. Yeah.
Do you know that last day when I left that organization, the operations manager came up to me and he said, Anthony, what you've done is completely transformed the way we work. He said, you should be a coach.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I did go down the whole coaching track. Here's a simple way of doing this. If you know something that's in your head, like a process, what I would recommend, and rather than writing it down, I would just dictate this to ChatGPT or Claude. Turn on your dictation on your favorite chat thing and say, here's the process that I've got, and I want you to write a document and to create a diagram. I did this the other day. So I'm building a voice agent for my client. And I said, hey, chat, I want you to create a flow diagram for this or a diagram. And I said, this is what happens. We've got caller coming in, blah, 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 blah. And these are the different apps in the middle. And within a minute, it drew the whole diagram for me. And I didn't have to do anything. I literally just talked to it and it did it for me, right? Like this morning, I've written an agreement document for another client. I said, I want you to write this agreement document, blah, blah, blah. I spoke maybe 2 minutes of just telling it what to do. But because it already knows the business, already knows what I've been talking to it, it was able to regurgitate all that stuff and write it out for me. So
yeah, I do the same thing. I'm not great at writing down, so I use the voice. I like the voice part. Like I'll just talk to it, just like you described. Hey, I want to do this. Show me this. This is what I'm trying to do. And I get my thoughts out, like what I'm wanting to do. And And it takes that. And that's, again, that's leveraging the power of AI. I know what I'm not good at. Like, I know that's not something that I'm good at. So I'm using, because what I am good is articulating it. Like, I can talk it, I can do it.
You've got
So,
creativity and you've got the critical thinking.
yeah. And so I can
Yeah.
I can talk through it, and then it creates this beautiful, just like you did. I think that's one of the ways. I also have I have a little, I don't know if you've ever seen these little, they're called plods. They recorded, like you can hook it to your phone and you can do meetings with it. So if I do off-site meetings where I'm actually physically there, and I always tell them I love to use that because it takes the transcript and it will help, put that into ChatGPT and it'll create the overview of, I mean, let's say it was a 2-hour meeting, but I'll say, here's what I want to pull out of this meeting. This is what I'm trying to do. And it'll take that and actually build that into a nice flow or worksheet that helps to kind of put all those big thoughts. That's very powerful tool, not very hard to do. Great way to use AI in your business. Just if you're just getting started, just to use it in your thought process, in your workflows. I know a lot of people who are like me, that they just want to talk through it. And I think that's a great way to use it. I use it enough that it knows me now and it knows how I think. It knows my business. I train it. I know you have agents. I have agents too. And I'm constantly training them so they think like I do. I mean, they're not going to be creative. That's not what they're there for. But I don't need them to be. I need them to take all the raw and help put it into something that makes simple sense.
You want to create a production. Basically, your agents are the production line. You're feeding it the information, and at the end of that process, you're then just making sure, keeping the human in the loop, making sure that everything is right. Yeah. And
That's right. That I spot check it to know that, okay. And then most of the ones that I build, I always put in an area that can be corrected so that if I see something, I can feed it. Hey, when you say this is inaccurate. It's just compounding. It's learning. It's like anything else. The more you, better it gets. Guess what people are? The more we pour into them, the better they're going to get.
yeah,
Same thing.
yeah, 100%. Now, with the process audits and 3 questions, can you walk us through the questions that explain why each one is so critical for someone thinking about growth and adding new technology like AI?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think we kind of hit on this a little bit in the second part, the process, right? Or this evaluation of the process or what it is. When you go to think about integrating AI, I do it all day and you do too. I actually love it. And I think understanding that gap, and I always think about it like this, like when I look at a product to recommend for a client or an agent, because there's a lot of them out there, I always look at the big picture, the problem that we're trying to solve, obviously being one, but also the person that's using it, how friendly it is to use. How will it work with them? Are they more, do they have any tech savvy? Are they not tech savvy? And I think that's a big player in thinking about how that kind of goes into that once that process is kind of out, how it can help you in closing that gap or making it the repetitive stuff less. And then the second one, when you look at like, if I brought a new hire on, and this is a prime example, I've actually got a client I'm working with right now that's doing this. They want to create training modules, and I think they're great. I love them. But I always ask this question, and I kind of got a little puzzled look. When you think about building a training module let's say for a new hire, you're bringing that new person in, you want them to sit down at a computer, they want them to learn. I always ask this question is are you wanting them to sit there and teach them how to do the job? Because if that's what you're doing, I don't know that that's the way that I would use it. I said, however, what if you think about, and there's great training modules that have AI included in all this, if we teach it about the culture, about the company, who we are, what we do, what we believe in, how we do things, why we do things, those core messages very often gets missed and ends up being changed. Or what happens when you build a company is 10, 15 years, you realize that you're doing something that wasn't even true to who you really were. I think that's a great place to do some of the training modules. So I always ask the question is how do we incorporate AI to help with someone's coming in? When you hire somebody, there's a cost associated. And the longer that they are taking to learn to start doing the job, is costing money. So we often say, well, you sit here at this computer and this is what you're going to do. And so go to town. But they don't understand anything about the company or the culture or who we are or what we do. And maybe if they learn that, and then when someone called in, they could be able to respond because they understand the core essence of who you are. And then the other, I guess, is when you look at how fast you grow, goes back to the email question. The busier you get, the more emails you get because more people are trying to connect with you. You have more people call. So, what are you doing to be able to keep doing the things that you need to be doing with less of AI can help take some of that burden off so that you can keep being more strategic thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of these three questions is the most business owners struggle in your experience?
I think they all fairly struggle with all of them, but I think I say this one only because I think this is what exposes it to call somebody is the growth. I think that processes are broken very early on. And as they grow, it gets amplified and they start putting Band-Aids on things. So I think that's probably when you and I get caught is the growth pattern. I don't think a company that's have this all the time. They're like, well, I'm a small company. I'm only doing like $1 million or $2 million. Like, listen, this is the perfect time to do this because you're not so busy that you're going, because you're not going to be the same $2 million company. You're going to be $5, $10, $15 million. You can self-manage that for a while and keep doing it until the growth starts happening and you realize, well, man, I didn't even have like a really good onboarding process. Like we just hired people and like you find out, well, we keep hiring and firing and hiring and firing and hiring and firing. And it always goes back to they've been here a year and they still don't know what you do. It's common. Yeah.
How does answering these questions truthfully really change the way the leader approaches their growth strategy? Like when you're talking to these leaders, do you find that just scraping the surface, are they actually opening up and telling you what's been happening?
Yeah, I think part of that is no one likes to hear flaws. No one likes to hear mistakes. That's why I think people who are in the middle of, I got one company, they're 25% growth every year. Well, from the outside looking in, do you think there's a problem? But they probably don't get any sleep because they're constantly trying to, stay ahead of all that. And so those are people are a whole lot easier to talk to because they're drowning, they're struggling, right? Versus the ones that maybe are still kind of in that borderline before it gets really busy. I think they're more, we're doing really well. We're doing really good. And to them, they are. They really are. I preach this all the time, people, is don't wait till you hit full growth, till you engage with somebody that can help. You need to be doing it myself. I mean, early on, like I still do, like have people that kind of helps look through things because if you take care of it now, you will never feel that stress. You won't feel that pressure. You'll kind of be always one step ahead of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Now, many entrepreneurs are driven by the hustle culture and just get it done mentally, and which has its place, I guess. But your message seems to be to challenge that, and I agree with you. But I'd love to hear your take on it.
On what? Again, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
So many entrepreneurs are driven by that hustle culture, which has its place, but your message seems to challenge that to some extent. How do you help those leaders shift from that instinct to push harder, instead to pause and intentionally build a better process or processor? But I'd love to hear your take on it.
That is probably the most challenging, right? I think there's some great probing questions to ask. And just like anything, I do come at these as a very humble approach. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, I think it's easier to walk in there and look at someone who is a business or an entrepreneur or even a C-levels because you actually have a business too. So you understand that. I like to build relationships with them. I like to start somewhere where they're comfortable and do something. I very often do this where, hey, look, let's work on this one thing. Like, let's fix this problem. I think that's a great way because what happened is once you start fixing that, then what I have to do is I have to create a place for them to go and put their thoughts. I call it a parking lot. And so I create a spreadsheet for every business owner because it always happens. You probably too. And I say, look, in the middle of the night when you have this thought, this is a place to put it. It's a shared drive. We see it. Me and him see it. Me and her see it. Put it in there. It doesn't mean we're not going to tackle it, but that way it's been said and it's sitting there. And creating that sense of confidence with them so that we can have real conversations. It can be very challenging at first. That's why I like to get a win with them so they can see. I also don't believe in opening the door with a retainer with people. I tell them right up front, I said, look, we're going to do 1 month. You're going to do one challenge, we're going to do 1 month, and I want you to see, and I want to make sure you like how we do business before we talk. And that's how I do it. I like for them to make sure they're comfortable with me, I'm comfortable with them before we go and talking longer time. And I think that sense of, okay, well, this person is really about my company. They're not just trying to make money. That's my approach. Doesn't mean everybody has to be that way. But I think starting somewhere to seeing those wins and giving them that we're really trying to help them starts opening them up to really be able to talk to things. And before you know it, very often I'm getting calls or texts all the time. Well, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I think that's the place where we can do some really cool things together and help them grow.
Yeah, you've built that relationship. You've built that trust with them as well. Do you charge on the one piece of work?
One piece of work. We start on one piece of work and we'll do that. And then usually at the end of the 30 days, I'll sit down with them and say, here was this problem. Here's what we did. What's your thoughts? And usually it's like, let's keep going. So, okay, I'm all for that. I wanted you to feel like because I've been the executive on the side of hiring people, consultants, CRM consultants, all these consultants before. And the first thing they all do is they want to do and there's nothing wrong with it, but what I have found is a lot of times that you'll sign a longer deal with them and you won't get the service that you feel like you should be getting. And so it gets very frustrating, right? And then you're down the road and you're like, okay, well, we're already in this relationship. And then we're really not ever moving things along. And I just do it a little different, just me personally, because I like to make sure they know that what I'm telling them we're going to do and feel like, we're all winning together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I like the fact that you just have one piece of work you can complete and then give them that confidence. Because when you move them from overwhelm to calm and confidence, that's the important part, right?
That's the first, right? Then they're starting to warm up and they're like, okay, it's like going to a therapist. First day into a therapist, you're going to tell them, oh yeah, I'm good. Nothing's wrong with it. And then you keep going and you keep going. And before you know it, you're laying on the couch crying because you're telling them everything that happened. And that's kind of what we are. We're really business therapists.
Yeah. I do like a 60 to 90-minute session with business owners. It's called the AI Clarity Assessment, where we go through 6 different dimensions of their business and do a assessment, which produces a PDF that they can see where the friction points are, where the bottlenecks are, and what the next steps are. And then based on the full conversation, I do a full recommendation document, which goes deeper into it. As you do, I give them homework. So go talk to your salesperson or go to talk to this marketing person and understand where the pain points are. And then this is one thing we're going to work on. And once we've nailed that, then we can look at the other bits.
I think it's great because it gives them the chance to see your work and that you say what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. What is the biggest mindset block that you've seen when people were trying to make that shift?
I think the biggest is getting out of this is the way we've always done it. I think those words are probably what's 3/4 of business that have failed has probably been because we've always done it that way. And this is who we are. This is what we've always done it. This is who we sell to. This is what we do. It's laziness in a way because it's just answering something that you really probably don't agree with. But it's easier to say that. People just leave it alone. Listen, owning a business and having to evaluate where things may not be perfect is not fun.
No, I guess for there's like people get embarrassed.
Sure. I mean, it's like going to the doctor. Nobody signs up and says, man, I can't wait to go to the doctor. Like nobody does that, right? Nobody wants to go to the doctor and sit all day and nobody does. We usually go when we get the results or we get someone to tell you like you need to quit eating or you need to lose weight or whatever, it's like crap, I know they're going to tell me that and I don't want to hear it. So you just don't go. Well, same thing is, for a mindset is like, well, we've just always done it that way. Well, this is who we are. I mean, just like the ladies that were doing the scanning. Well, this is the way we've always done it. This is a way, it's a very common thing you hear. And, we've been doing it this way for 25 years. Well, you're right. You have been. And there's new technology. There's AI that could do this job. So the 25 people you've got doing that one job, now you probably can do it with 3. We're not in the same times we were 25 years ago. And I always tell them when someone says it, I says, well, do you still drive the car you did 25 years ago? Well, no. Well, why would you change? Well, this one's got nicer. It's better. It's like, yeah, so has the world. It's really putting it into perspective of they don't always think that way. It's just more of a mindset that they can throw out.
But also the way we did business back in the day to how we do business today is different as well.
Not the same. I mean, we live in an instant gratification world. Like everything is at our fingertips, right? And AI is doing nothing but making that even better. Like you can, nobody Googles things anymore. You just go to Claude or ChatGPT and ask, what's the 5 best restaurants in my city? It's going to tell you. It's pulling all this stuff off of all the internet to do that. And so 5 years from now, there'll be something better. I mean, it's just going to keep getting better. And we're not going to just because we're going to say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do it the old way. Well, no. Look at the internet. The internet started, 25 years ago, 27 years ago? Everybody's like, I'm not doing internet. We're not doing that. And now you can't even have a business without a website.
No. So. Exactly. And the same with AI. Like, it's new. Well, it's been around since the 50s or 60s or whatever. So, but it feels like it's new, but it will become part and parcel. Like, I mean, we've been using AI for years. Like your phones have got AI in it. Siri is AI. Alexa is AI. There's lots of stuff that is AI. And I think there's still a lot of people sitting on the fence who are thinking that it's going to go away or like, oh, I don't need to use it. But like you said, every business will be using AI.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I live in the United States, and there's more being spent on infrastructure for AI than, billions. They're building data centers everywhere.
Yeah.
They're not building those to go away.
No, I read something the other day where it was in the media. We're in an AI bubble, and it's like it's all just hype at the moment, and I'm like, no.
No.
So it's like I'm like some of these people in the media, like which world are they living in? They must be in a different world.
Well, I think there's fear, right? I mean, and rightfully so. This is some creepy. I mean, it's pretty impressive technology, and you're right. AI has been around for a really long time, but it's mainly been in the hands of commercial. It's been in the hands of now we didn't have it at our fingertips like we do today.
Yeah.
So more people are using it, and it's some uncertainty. Like people are just a little fearful. But I tell people all the time. I have this conversation probably 3 times a day about thoughts on AI, and I tell them all the time. I says, look, if you think of AI as AI is not a human being and it's not a person. It is a tool. It is a tool just like you do when you go out and you take a shovel and you dig a hole. You use a tool. You don't dig it with your bare hands. AI is doing the same thing. You're going to run business smarter and more efficiently because you have a better tool.
Yeah.
You're not going to go, well, when the computers came out, IBM, you didn't go, well, I'm not going to get one of those because they're going to make my eyes go blind. No, you got one because it made your job more efficient. Writing letters and typing, it's a lot faster typing than it is writing a letter. Like we're going to always have evolving tools that make our job better and are easier. And that's how you look at this. It's how do it make me and what I do run more efficiently.
Yeah. The other thing is, like you said before, a lot of the larger corporates or organizations used to have the SaaS products or have the SaaS products, right?
That's right.
I feel like the SaaS companies are actually going to start losing the hold on clients because now you can go with vibe coding, you can actually build your own platform. Or even through, I've built a full ecosystem using Lovable AI, and I use ChatGPT for ideation, and I'm about to productize that and build a product that I can help other businesses with. So I feel like we're getting to a point where businesses who have people who understand how to use AI will be able to create custom software to help them in their own business instead of going and spending thousands of dollars paying
Sure.
someone else.
Sure.
So I think
I do the same thing like you. I mean, I have multiple operating systems that I built using AI. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you can. I mean, listen. You could right now today. You could too. I could build a CRM for somebody that's just as good as any one of them out there, and not be near what you have to pay for a CRM.
Yeah. 100%. What is one practical step that someone can take this week to start building clarity, even if it feels like they don't have the time?
I think what I would leave with someone is take a moment, wherever you're at, or whether you're the CEO or your secretary, I don't care, wherever you are, and ask yourself, very simple, just sit at your desk this week and say, what am I doing in 8 hours a day? Like do this on Monday. What did I spend most of my time doing? It's whatever it is. Tuesday, do the same thing. Wednesday, and at the end of the week, look at it, combine it, and really look at what you're spending most of your time doing. And ask yourself when you're done doing that, go, is this something that I could use AI to help alleviate to give me more time back? If the answer is yes, then I'd highly recommend you talk to Anthony or myself or somebody and say, hey, how can I make this better? Just that one thing, and then ask yourself. If the answer is, man, I'm spending all my time doing X, Y, and Z, and you're happy with that time, no problem. But if you look at it and you go, we got some issues here, then I recommend you need to reach out, get some help, like start the conversation. Don't cost money to ask a question. Don't ask, just ask. So,
Yeah. Awesome, Chad. Now, tell us a little bit about your business and how people can connect with you and what have you got on offer and how they find you as well.
yeah. So, again, Chad Paris, I own Stonefly Consulting. I'm an avid fly fisherman. That's why it's Stonefly. So, if you're asking, I love to fly fish. It's my hobby. But you can reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, Chad Paris. I also have Stonefly Consulting on LinkedIn. My website is stoneflyconsulting.com. Any one of those outlets is a way to connect with me. I'd love to have a conversation and just listen to where you're at, and I'll give you my honest feedback on that.
Yeah. Awesome. And we'll put those links on in the show notes and also to be a dedicated page for your episode, which will have all that on there. There'll be
Another thing, I'm sorry, one more thing I do. I also have a podcast too. I'm going to have Anthony on that.
Nice.
Process Over Pressure is my podcast. We do a lot of the talking about day-to-day entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So I'd love for you to come listen to that.
100%.
I'm going to I'm going to drag him on.
I'll be there. No problem. Just let me know when. On the episode page, there'll be all your details, your links. There'll be an article written from the transcript, and there'll be a practical guide, which is a mini version. It's a distilled down version, 3-page guide that people can download, and it will have all of the juicy bit that we've talked about today. But people can actually start applying that in their business straight away by downloading it's free. And we're also going to be doing some more videos and webinars and things like that in the future.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Now, Chad, you were at the quick fire round, so we've got 6 really quick questions. You can answer these in a short sentence or a single word. And the first question for you is, how do you define success, and has that definition evolved for you over time?
How do I define success? Probably by my smiles at the end of the day. The more smiles, I know it's been a successful day.
Yeah, love it. Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
Probably my grandfather. He was a military guy, hard worker, farmer, but he told me very on, I'll never forget it. I still use it today. He said, Chad, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. I still use that today.
I agree with you. I agree with him. Yeah. What is something that you believe that others may disagree with?
I believe that we are, and I think we live in a very tumultuous time. People are very seems like everybody wants to fight with everybody. I actually think we are in probably some of the most awesome time than we've ever been in this country, in this world. the ability that I'm sitting here right now with you and we're in two different worlds and being able to do that, I think we should embrace it. Like I think it's fantastic that we have this opportunity in the technology that we have that we can do things that was just like not even the thought several years ago. So I think we're in a really cool time.
Yeah, I agree with you. A podcaster once said to me, I only do episodes and interviews in person. And I'm like, well, you're limiting yourself because I'm interviewing people from all around the world.
Yeah, and you
Building,
get to meet people, right? Like you and I would have never known each other, having a chance to do this, and I think we'll have a relationship moving forward. Like it's just
100%.
been you just really unique people. Otherwise, how would you ever be able to do something like this?
Absolutely. If you
Yeah.
could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think that I am good enough. I think that I definitely struggle with, growing up, not having all the greatest things in the world, but you start having friends and people, you start evaluating yourself, and maybe you're not good enough. You're maybe not good enough. That's the worst demon that you can have in your brain is telling you that you're not good enough. And I wish I could make everybody stop thinking that or think that thought come in their mind, but people do it all the time. It's a total lie. It's not true. So I would say, don't even listen to that.
Yeah. I did the interview this morning and we were talking about exactly that. You are enough. It's not about even are you good enough? You are enough.
You are
You're enough.
just where you are.
That's right. Yeah. And what is one message that you like to share with the world?
That I think that for myself is that, if you're out there and you're, contemplating, do I step out and start that business? Do I do it? Do I do it or I just keep working my 9 to 5? If you have this tug that you need to do it, step out and do it. Go do it. If you don't ever try it, you'll never know. And you may be missing the greatest opportunity that you have for yourself. So we don't listen to our internal being very much. And I encourage people to listen to that and go do it. It's going to be scary, but I promise you, you will love it.
Yeah, 100%. And connect with us because both of us could help you on that journey and
Absolutely.
mentor
Love
you.
to.
Yeah, 100%.
Love.
And the very last question for you is, what does it mean to you to be a champion and have a champion mindset?
Oh, that's a great question. I think being a champion is someone when this world is over and go to heaven, I want people to look back and say, this guy cared about me. He helped me. He cared. He genuinely cared. And I'm a better person for knowing him.
Agree. Agree with you. What is your favorite mindset quote?
Favorite mindset quote. Obviously, never give up. I love that. Jimmy V, I love his story. Never quit, never give up is probably my favorite. I just think that's even when things get hard and when things get tough, don't give up. Just keep being persistent, keep going. It'll all work out.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad, this was such an awesome, practical and honest conversation. And it's really brought it home and the truth that slowing down to build properly is often the fastest way forward. We often think that it's just push, 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 but when you slow down, you get clarity and then it's about the direction, not the distance. Are you moving in the right direction or instead of am I going far enough types thing. So always look at the direction that you're going in. And what really stood out to me is that your point about growth that exposes broken processes. I think that so many people will resonate with that. And thank you for sharing your insights and your story with us. Also, you can find, as I mentioned before, all the links and the resources for Chad in the show notes, but also on the episode page on the Champion Mindset Collective. And please hit subscribe. There's about 94% of people that watch these episodes don't subscribe. So share with someone who might benefit, like a business owner who might benefit from it. Chad has got services that he can help you with. And I've also got the AI Clarity Assessment. If you're interested in having that, if you're here in New Zealand or Australia or wherever, and you'd like to book in a call, look at the link in the show notes and you'll be able to connect with me there. Thanks for being part of the Champion Mindset Collective. We'll see you next time. Lastly, I just want to say you are loved, you are worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.